And welcome everybody to the Independent Investor Channel Live. It is Friday at 9 o'clock. Here we are, New York time here, Eastern Standard Time. We are hailing from New York City. Fantastic to be with you this evening. If you have a chance to label it in the thread, I'd like to have an idea where everybody's hailing from this evening. I think it'd be kind of fun. You don't have to give your address, but give your home state. If you don't want to do that and you're international and you're hailing from another country, man, drop that in the thread. I'm going to do some shout outs tonight from some people. Give me some idea of where the audience is pulsing in from. I think it's beautiful, man. We're looking for the most minuscule of potential in people that sometimes don't think that there's potential there. I'm a guy that operates on a very, very simple premise. People are very, very special. Okay. There's a lot of special people out there that don't realize they're special. There's a lot of people out there that don't realize their own personal potential. And sometimes it's really important to get with people like myself who live, breathe, and eat this stuff. Okay. I've talked about personal actualization through the channel many, many times, and I can sit across from a YouTube audience and say, rest assured, I've been there for a long, long time, and it feels really, really good. It really does. I've got Mississippi, Illinois, New Orleans. How cool is that, guys? Fantastic. My old home in Michigan. Very cool. Lots of shout outs. I want to get my first international at Denver, Colorado. I see a lot of, there's my first international right there with Quebec, Canada. How cool is that, man? Very cool. If you guys do have a chance, man, to leave your location, and I'd also ask you, if you are an investor out there, to leave your number one ETF or index funds, if that's your thing, your number one mutual fund. It'd be kind of cool. I will highlight those at some point during. This is a give back, but I'm also going to give kind of an introspection on, you know, where we are here. We're up this year to date. We had a tough week this week. We still are up for the year. A little bit of give back. It just speaks to the perspective when you're talking about financial markets, not to get wrapped around the axle day to day. You start to do that and it can really start to consume you. Okay. So we want to shy away from that type of activity, gain that long-term perspective that we're looking at. Because if you are operating on the same premise as me, I believe, as imperfect as I am, I have something special to offer. And it's not so much to say that I am special. You miss my whole mark if you miss that. I just think that people's potential go untapped all the time because they fail to adhere to a very, very simple rule. And that is, by doing a little bit a lot of the time instead of doing nothing, you can really, really get ahead. What I mean by that is, we talk about dollar cost average all the time. And I think for a lot of people, it goes in one ear and out the other because it's the same old cliche. Yeah, Ryan, we've heard it before. We freaking get it. We're with you, yada, yada, yada. I think it goes deeper in truly understanding that when I say dollar cost averaging, what does it mean to you? And how do you apply it? Well, we just buy once a month. Okay, if that's what you can afford. The old onus of investing what you can, when you can, and in the capacity that you can really holds true. And I'm such a believer in this game. I come onto YouTube to kind of share this idea that we don't invest as an end sum game. In other words, investing is such a fascinating thing. If people were investing to fail, then it would fail to hold the attraction that it does. And stock market investing and building wealth, quite honestly, holds a lot of attraction. And the stock market in and of itself has a lot to do with that. The stock market, it's two words, all right? But when we're talking about different forms of equities on the equity side, put the bond and the fixed market aside for a moment and just think about stock market. It comes in a lot of different forms, and it's how you seek out your form that you guys can see here. Now, if you're a non-investor, I'd like you to leave that in the comments thread as well and say, look, I'm a non-investor. I don't invest, Ryan, but I made my way into the independent investor channel maybe for the first time. I've delivered this product 100 times over. I do the independent investor live stream really when it comes down to my bottom line that drives me. And that is indeed my compassion for helping people understand if they never invested 1 red cent in their life, just to find that little bit of inner motivation to stop saying I can't all the time and to say that I can. Now, if you look at the opportunity that I talk about with doing those small steps in rapid fire, okay, putting those punches and bunches together, little punches at a time, right? You don't have to go for the knockout punch, man. Just the jab every now and then will go a long way. What I mean by that is if you can break it down, this is something that I've deployed in my life, starting with $25 a month. That's what I started with. When I roll that off my tongue, it is sentimental to me. Sentimental, not so much that I would like to go back and spend that $25 on something else that opted toward building and amassing the fortune that I have now. But it wasn't that. It was deeper than that. It was the making the conscious decision to go from something from nothing. Okay. That conscious decision made all the difference in my psychological makeup and my evolution to this place, that understanding that a saved dollar is significantly better than a dollar that's spent and lost forever. How many boxes of stuff do we have in storage that's out in the garage right now from dollars spent? How did you do on that investment? Did you get your good return on that investment? Well, Ryan, it's all good. I have lots of garage sales. Boy, those are fun. Having somebody come and offer you 25 cents for something that you know carte blanche, you spent $25 on when you bought it brand new, right? And you put $1 on it at the garage sale, and somebody comes and says, gosh, I could really use that. Would you take 25 cents? And you're looking at people like, geez Louise, really? I mean, it's worth $25. But the whole point of it is to understand that the older that I get, the more investing makes sense to me. And it makes sense for me, not only from the perspective of my life, but it makes sense in the lives of the legacies that I'm trying to lead and leave some level of legacy for. Okay. And it's not as if here's the last thing I want to see happen. If I was going to leave a legacy for my children, I can't just bake in appreciation for them. Okay. It's something that I was given as a gift. My mother and father, greatest gift they could have ever given me. In one word, appreciation. Number one thing they gave me, appreciation, right? What is the point of amassing a fortune if you don't appreciate the fortune that you've amassed? Um, and I just had a colleague this week is like, Ryan, I know a lot of really wealthy people, and a lot of them, if not a lot of them that I know in my close circles, are very, very unhappy. It's like, and that's too bad. I know people that are wealthy as well. They're very happy. They're very they don't walk around with their wealth on their sleeve, okay? But they're healthy people. So does it speak to the money doesn't buy happiness thing? Yeah, I don't know. You give a guy like myself with some utter appreciation, I'm going to walk around on cloud nine, a pretty happy man. Because I tell you what, if you come from a place that I've come from, and you've operated on the pretense that I've operated on every single day of my life, aspiring to something, okay? Dreaming your way to putting the tools in place to hopefully get to a place that's better off down the line. Guys, that can kind of consume you a little bit. And I can admit to you, man, it's not just as easy as waking up every single day and say, hell, I don't even need to get out of bed. I'm a winner already. All right. I've already kicked that ass. I'm good. Leave me alone. I'm fine. I'm better than everybody. Let the rat race go and make that dough. No, 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 no. I'm up in the gym every single day. I was in the gym at 5 o'clock every single day this week, following through on my New Year's resolution. What's yours? I don't like cliches. Okay. So let's just talk about new personal goals for 2023. All right. New Year's resolutions to me, I hear that crap and it's like, let's hurry up and get out of January so I can drop my New Year's resolution and go back to bad habits. Okay. But how about those lifestyle shifts that you're looking to take on? All right. I did spin 3 times this week, man. It's fantastic. I tell my coach all the time that he puddles me, and it's great. But hey, I tell you what, I still got that fighting spirit that I had at 18 years old, and I'm a scrapping young 45 years old. But I got a lot of people from a lot of different walks of life in here, guys. Very cool. I got David in the house. David, great to see you, my friend. He's got the QQQ. What a hell of a day today. I think it outperformed the Dow today, if I'm not mistaken. Pretty impressive double index run today. S&P was up and the Russell as well. So it was a quad up day today. Nice day to end a pretty bad week this week. I'm not sure what the roll off was. Perhaps maybe some gun shy selling after a really poor 2022. But the stock market requires you to actually spread out your time continuum, and it requires you to, if you don't just automatically get results, okay, it requires you to have that perseverance. Okay, it's as if I went into the gym and I couldn't bench press 315 pounds and I put 135 on the bar. I tried it one time and I get pissed off and I leave. Okay, it doesn't require that. The working out and exercise is one of the most humbling things. I did the push-ups this morning with the guys, 2 minutes straight of push-ups, okay? Because we're trying to get some guy ready for a professional obligation. You ever tried to do 2 minutes to straight cadence to push-ups? If you think you're a badass, man, you should really try it because that'll turn you into a puddle in and of itself. But you know, what do you do if you do something like that? And you're like, Ryan says I can do it. I'm look at me, I'm crazy cool, and you try it and it's really hard. Whoa, you find out that it's hard, and then you take on the grander perspective and the analogy that life is hard, etc., and that you don't give up when you have obstacles, etc., right? But welcome to the Independent Investor Channel, guys. Really appreciate you making your way in. We got a hell of a gallery tonight. Mm-hmm. 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 Hell of a week for me, no doubt about it. Trudging forward, I can almost taste it. I talk about that appreciation. It is what fuels my fire. Okay. It is what fuels my fire. I talk all the time. I wouldn't do this project if I didn't need to. I would still do exactly what I do when I'm away from the project. But if I can share the project, share that motivation, and share that evolution, which I've shared for over 5 years on the channel, that makes it that much more special. Now, next week, do we fall on our face? We lose tilt, and we surrender, $500,000 of wealth to the stock market gods. I don't know. I guess everything is possible. I guess a meteor could come out of space, and then we would have bigger problems than our WAD and our portfolio. But while I'm here and while I'm healthy, and while I have the wherewithal to do what it is that I do, I'm going to keep on doing it my way. And I'm going to keep on making it my life's mission and my life's motivation for me. And the secondary byproduct of my project is that I get to share it, and I get to share it with a social media audience. And my only hope is that you get some level of identification of motivation within you to do something greater in your life. Guys, welcome to the channel. Be back with you in just a moment. You're getting paid to listen to me. Fantastic. Don't get caught, okay? If you've got a job or whatnot, or you've got a little downtime, man, that's all cool. I appreciate you coming and sharing your deal with us. SPY is the bread, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, so the Vanguard's S&P 500 is my largest holding. I do own VTI in the brokerage account. It's a good holding. If you collectively took my S&P holdings, they're probably up close to 75,000, I guess, in just S&P holdings. Could you just do your entire net worth in the S&P 500? Yeah, it gives you that broad, diversified exposure to each his own and what you want to do. For me, I like having the aspect. I tell you what, going through 2022, as bad as it was nice having some dividend growth. I'm up, killed it in that portfolio. The dividends were nice. If nothing else, a psychological win to get those dividends paid into the portfolio. And then my single greatest single stock holding is actually highly on holdings. I've got about 40,000, over 40 grand in there right now with some long call contracts as well and highly on. A lot of holdings that go down from there in between the $5,000 and $10,000 mark. Quite a few. My favorite names right now. I really like BlackRock. That's a really good one. Really like Costco. Costco's done quite well. A lot of good single value out there. Procter and Gamble, right? That's another good one. J&J took the day off today, but certainly begs the to be in the discussion. Lockheed Martin has just done absolutely fantastic over really with all the defense sector with L3 Harris. You got General Dynamics. You've got Northrop Grumman. You've got Raytheon as well. Some of my absolute favorites in the space. A lot of cool companies out there. And when we talk about doing a little bit, talk about 1,200 strong and Hyliion, absolutely. Hyliion's starting to grumble a little bit in 2023. Very good stuff. Just had an announcement of their newest order. So very cool stuff. That order was long in the wings, and it was nice to hear that be announced. I think it's going to be fun to watch the story unfold. It's an easy company to invest in. It's going to be even easier when the company actually starts to materialize on some of the orders and start to, write against its order backlog. It's just exciting. That is a portion of my portfolio that's kind of portioned toward that aggressive growth element. But it doesn't come at the expense of other value investing plays. All right. That's kind of the takeaway that you can get from me, is understanding that it's a holistic approach with me. All right. My portfolio is not perfect. Neither is yours. Okay. That doesn't exist. You can make a simplified portfolio that is simple and a lot less dynamic. Okay. The more simplified you make your portfolio, the more predictable of a year over year performance that you can actually gauge. For example, if you just own all VTI, you can pretty much be rest assured based on historical performance not to gauge future performance at around 7 to 8% per year. No more, no less. You're not going to have the VTI explode to the upside 100, 200, 500, 1,000%. That's not going to happen. Okay. And you say, well, that's exactly what I want. Well, then you need to be able to take on the necessary risk to the downside as well. And a lot of people will say, well, I'm willing to take on the risk to the downside. No, you're not. No, you're not. Most people, and I'm talking about 99% of people out there in the retail community, especially, because these are our hard-earned dollars that we're putting to work in the stock market. So the capacity by which we put those dollars to work, I would contend, are probably better off being put to work in more of a defensive strategy, okay, using all of the tools at your disposal. If you're going to buy the S&P 500, you can monitor it. You can buy it when it's down. You can dollar cost average every month and take away even that guesswork. So if you don't look at it, you can determine that it's down 20% like it was in 2022, that you don't just buy the stock super high or have an ill-advised buy of the company when it is down. But I always look at the S&P as kind of a barometer. If you've got that S&P in your portfolio and it's fluctuating back and forth, right, you can kind of look at it and say, even on a down day, right, this week, I took a little stab. I bought 12 shares of VOO just this week. That was my only buy that I made this week, guys. The only buy that I made this week. If you're making your way to the live stream, please give us your location of where you are. I'm kind of curious to see where people are pulsing in from. There's a lot of United States. There's some Canada. I didn't see anything from Europe just yet. They usually tune in the morning over tea because this is a little bit late there. So a lot of people kick in actually the next day. I got a lot of people that kick in from UK as well. All my English friends that kick into the channel and catch their tea. But hey, you know, if we're delivering on an empowering message, you can take a little piece from it. Great. I'm not a life coach. All right. Is the impact felt insofar as maybe some life coach deemable results? Hey, yeah, awesome, great. I intend to make an impact. I'm not doing this to waste my or your time. I'm doing this to make an impact. You know what I'm saying? And if we're making that impact and we're making that impact on a positive level, it's a far cry than what we see in the world right now with a lot of negative, you know. And I know that there's more positive out there than what comes across the news media. I know there's a lot more positive on the grassroots level, right? In the trenches, okay? In the trenches. I was in service delivery today on my job, and it gives me extreme pleasure, okay, to be in the trenches, to watch this country work the way that it works. And when it works really, really well, it's very, very special. Sometimes I wonder if our government actually identifies with that, you know, the government being within the people and not in Washington, D.C. Okay. But I just think all too often there is a very staunch distinction between those two, and the disconnect is very, very real. Got Tennessee in the house, very nice place. I visited there a couple of years ago. It's really a nice place, very cool. We went to Pigeon Forge and Sevierville. That was kind of a cool place, man. I got Maryland in the house, very cool. It's softball country. Okay, all right, Matt. All right, I can get behind that. He says S&P 500. Yeah, very cool. Got from New Jersey, my neighbor. Very cool stuff. My neighbor to the west. Very cool. I'm there all the time, man. Very cool. And Ryan asked me this question too. I got your email this week for sure. Yeah, it was a really good one. I've made videos on redundancy in the portfolio before, and when I read your email, I thought it was a really good point. It was one that I hadn't never thought of. I never thought of comparing Johnson and Johnson, let's say Pfizer and Merck. They get compared all the time in the healthcare sector, and I've never considered having Pfizer and Merck, because they're both in healthcare, to be redundancy or overlap, I think is what you were asking me, right? And I don't take it to be disrespectful at all. Actually, it caught me off guard because I've taught on redundancy and overlap in the portfolio from a different perspective. In that, if you own the S&P 500, right, in the top 10 holdings of the S&P 500, you can expect to have Apple, Microsoft, Nvidia, right? Some of the largest companies in there. Okay, Berkshire Hathaway is in there. Now, if I own the S&P 500 and I own a couple percent of each of those top end weightings in the S&P 500, and I also opt to own Apple Computer, does that equate to redundancy? Or if I own Apple Computers in one portfolio and I own Apple Computers in the other, does that count as redundancy? And I think the long and short answer is, to your question, first of all, I don't consider owning Coke and Pepsi in the same portfolio as redundancy. I'm talking about two completely different suites, even though they're both from the staples category. Okay, their portfolio of product offerings are so significantly different. Their business structures are completely different. Their dividend payout are completely different. And if you're gonna opt for one, you can't necessarily negate the other, because you would be negating one of the best in breed. Okay. And so I think when you're looking at Coke and Pepsi, it's a fantastic example of, why can't you just own Coke if you wanted to own the staples, or own Pepsi? I think Coke is actually a discretionary. I can't remember for sure, but I think in your example, you asked me about Home Depot and Lowe's, and it's interesting to me because I have a staunch differentiation between those two businesses. I prefer Home Depot all the way over Lowe's. I just think the experience is different. I think the feeling is different. I think the service that you get when you go into the stores are different. And I think that the brands that I recognize with in Home Depot are different than the ones that I recognize with Lowe's. Now, from a fundamental perspective, there's a lot to love about Lowe's. So do you consider it to be redundancy by owning both of those? I do not. I do not. And it's a really, really good question. I don't think that, I don't want to call it splitting hairs because I just thought that the question was so good that it got my attention, and I saved you the heartache of me giving you some long-winded email back. I won't do that. Not only that, but I don't have the time to do it. But I'd rather explain it on a live stream so everybody can kind of hear my explanation as to there's different forms of redundancy, okay? And redundancy for me is if you own, two of the exact same equities and you're building that position in the exact same way. But I don't think there's a problem with owning, let's say, VTI and VOO are ultimately the same fund. It's just that VTI has the lower end small cap and mid cap market attached to it as well. And I think when I talked at the top of the live stream about, it's a really good question, Ryan. Thank you so much, man. I appreciate the hell out of you. When I talked about the stock market, okay, don't try to split hairs, okay? The top companies in the S&P 500, I'll rattle off my top five, okay? When it starts with Apple, Microsoft, Procter and Gamble, Johnson and Johnson, and it would have been Disney before this roll off, but let's just throw a really good company in there like Pepsi, okay, or a McDonald's, something like that. When you're talking about the stock market, when you buy the indexes, you really are buying the entire package, looking for that year over year compounding growth. So the S&P, if it returns 10% a year, that's what you're going after because you own all of the stocks collectively. But when you opt for those single stocks, okay, you own all of the debt, you own all of the profits, you own all of the dividends, 100% of every dollar that you have vested in that one single stock. So it becomes very, very interesting and intriguing when you're talking about, going back and forth between what you're actually after, the year over year return, or opting for your returns of that single equity. And I tell you what, there's no company, man. I mean, just a couple of years ago, you would have never ever thought that Amazon would go down. Amazon's off 50% right now from its highs. And it's really, really difficult to look at that stuff and be like, wow, I can't believe it. There is always ebb and flow in the stock market. But when you're talking about stock market, there's really no escape from this fundamental truth. Okay. If you're a non investor, you do not have your dollars allocated in any form to the stock market. If you do, and this is back to Ryan Calhoun's point about redundancy, you're going to have to seek out your exposure at some point. There's no like A team stock market and B team stock market and C team stock market. Yeah, well, there's A and B shares and C shares around. Stay with me for my point here. If you're going to invest in the stock market, chances are you're probably grabbing some exposure to some Adobe and you don't even know that you do. If you own QQQ, like David in the group has talked to us, you own some Johnson and Johnson. Hell, you probably own some Weyerhaeuser in the triple Qs and you don't even know about it. Okay, these are all really good, top tier, proven companies. So if you can justify in your mind building your portfolio in a way that justifies leaving out a company like Coke because you own Pepsi, or like Lowe's because you own Home Depot, or right down the line. I don't want to own Caterpillar because I own Cummins, right? Two phenomenal companies. I don't want to own John Deere because I already own Tractor Supply, right? Both phenomenal companies. Okay. Um, Boeing would be another one, right? Um, just those companies like Lockheed Martin, as opposed to, a Northrop Grumman in the same defense space. And I could go on and on and on. When all actuality, if I put 100 people in a room and said, which one would you rather own, Lockheed Martin or Raytheon, I'll bet you would split right down the middle 50-50. People would say, I opt for Raytheon or I opt for Lockheed. And they would have very staunch conviction on either side of the house. So perhaps maybe it is parsing a little bit our words if we're overthinking it and looking at both companies and saying, gosh, they're both really good. Should I just own them both? None at all? Or pick my favorite based on your own free will? And it's really cool, man. That's the cool thing about stock market investing. And it doesn't mean because I choose Lockheed and you choose L3 Harris and my Lockheed Martin holding goes up huge and your L3 stays static for 2 years, it doesn't mean I'm right. It doesn't mean that. It just means for that fragment of time, the stock outperformed when compared to each other. You can play all kinds of these correlation games. You can look at historical performance. You can look at stocks as they perform against the S&P 500, right? So what you'll find a lot of the times is over the long term, there's a lot of really good companies that have outpaced the S&P 500, but there's been a lot of times during stretches like what Disney is undergoing right now that has drastically underperformed the S&P 500. But if you go back historically, tell me what you would have had you invested $10,000 in the S&P 500 in 2010 and what you would have now if you invested 10,000 then in Walt Disney. It might surprise you actually in some of those figures in how they actually shake out, but it's all good stuff, you know. We're deliberating around the right stuff, and I certainly don't want to get I don't want to promote this idea that somehow because I come onto YouTube, I know a lot about the stock market, but there's always thousands and thousands of people that know a hell of a lot more than me, and there's a lot of people that know a whole hell of a lot less. My contention is very, very simple. Stock market, okay? If you're going to become an investor, at some point, the bottom line is that you're going to have to opt for or volunteer some of your surplus capital and put it to risk. If it's not something that you're interested in, no problem, no love lost. Don't do it. It's all good. You're still probably a fantastic person. Okay, what we're talking about here doesn't make you a better person. It really doesn't. But if you start to understand the why and why I do what I do, you start to kind of understand, you know, the plan itself as to why I do what we do. All right, we're just over 33 minutes, and I do want to give you some really interesting insights that'll give you some idea of why I do what I do. Okay, I want to give you the easy piece first, which I've kind of talked about a little bit, but the desire by which I do this project. Okay, I don't know how many people out there would persevere if they had a YouTube channel like mine, have grown it up over 5 or 6 years, and would continue to persevere with the level of desire that I do. I don't know. Maybe everybody would. I'm not saying I'm anybody special. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is I have persevered. And when compared to others, how many people would have persevered like I have to maybe even better results or given up? Okay, given up. The channel's not growing. We're at 28,000 subscribers. This is where we've been for the last year. We were not growing. I've had enough of this. I'm out. But the desire by which I do what it is that I do is probably one of the key takeaways to why I am where I am. The second is the initiative to actually turn something into something from nothing. What? Okay, hold on. Ryan always really highlights when he's getting down into the granular good stuff. Okay. Did he just say turn something into nothing? Yes. Imagine you have a blank palette. Call it your life. Okay. Try to give you some level of analogy. You can paint whatever picture that you want. But how many people out there actually have the ability to paint their own picture? How many people have engaged in projects where they've failed? Okay. At least you've tried. How many people have actually tried to paint the picture and have actually succeeded by any level of metric that you can assign to it and say, wow, I'm proud of this project. Like I look at this project and I'm like, I don't care if I gain another subscriber for the next 10, 20 years. I'm proud of the project because of the difference that we've made, the reciprocation that I get from real people. I don't get it from YouTube. I get it from real people who are like, man, I caught your message, man. It was pretty cool, actually. You said a few things that actually got under my skin, number one. And number two is I actually listened to what you said. And it was like, I actually kind of agreed. And I thought maybe it added a little bit of motivation to my life as well. Desire and initiative. All right. The 4 P's that I talk about all the time, 4 P's. Okay. 4 P's, super, super important. Passion. Okay. I don't do this like a bump on a log. If I just came and took a nap for the fastest 60 minutes on YouTube, it wouldn't be the fastest 60 minutes. It would be the slowest. All right. So you got to do this with some level of passion. Don't do anything in your life. Investing specifically, investing will cripple you if you're not ready for it. Investing is not going to resonate with you if you get involved in investing and say I watch Ryan every Friday and I'm awesome and I'm awesome because of him. He's the reason I do what it is that I do, and I'm here to really just tell you I'm just a regular fella. Okay, just a regular fella coming on to kick it with a YouTube audience here. But the passion by which you go about the method that you go about doing it, you have to understand why you're doing it and apply some level of passion. It has to embody what it is that you do. It's the very nature that I talk about it becoming a lifestyle application in everything that you do. Okay. Everything that you do. I have a notation here. Derive meaning in everything that you do. Some of the coolest things that I do now at 45 years old, 45. Some of the most fulfilling things that I do right now in my life, free of charge. They have nothing to do with money. Nothing to do with money. Nothing. Nothing. If that's not some level of spiritual actualization, I'd like somebody to say, Ryan, you're really, really off. It's actually over here somewhere. It's not over here so much. It's actually over here. All right. But it's super, super important that people truly understand, man, that the best things that you can do in life now are free. They're free, but I derive such rich meaning out of those things. I'll give you some examples. Exercise. I talk about it all the time. I'm a freaking freak, but I love getting up in the morning. I'm addicted to the way that I feel after, not so much when I'm pumping out those, 2 minutes straight of push-ups or doing that spin workout, right? It's rigorous. Have you ever done spin? Raise your hand if you've ever done it. It's crazy. It'll puddle you. I mean, seriously, people are like, "Oh, that's dang, Ryan. You okay, buddy?" You know. And then there's like a pond, and I gotta mop the pond up. You know what I'm saying? And it's crazy. Exercise, super important. I'm excited by the fact that I'm doing everything that I can possibly do to remain healthy and be able to deal with the injects that I deal with in what everybody tells me is a very stressful job. I love my job. I love it. Everybody tells me it's really, really stressful. Yeah, I don't know. Exercise keeps me very, very well balanced. When people say hello to me, I'm genuinely glad to say hello back. When somebody asks me if I have time, sometimes I do, sometimes I don't, but I can find that healthy balance if I do exercise and do it with probably a lot more frequency than the average bear. All right. 5 days a week. I mean, how many people do that? I know there's people in my community actually that really resonate with this idea, and it helps them make It helps them become a better investor. It's crazy. How can you eat right and become a better investor? How can you be spiritually strong and be a better investor? How is it that you can exercise and be a better investor? How is it that you can make time to spend time with family and be a better investor? Say it a few times. Perhaps maybe you'll actually get it if you understand and look to derive that meaning that I talk about. Phenom, great to see you, my friend. All the best to you and the family. Thanks so much for the support over the years, man. And I am talking about years. It's amazing how time flies. But then again, I kind of stopped and went away with that cliche because the more fun that I have in life, the quicker time goes. There's nothing I can do about it. I'm more interested in controlling those things that I can control in life. And I tend to let those things that I can't control just do what it is that they're going to do. Why? Because I've come to terms with the fact that I can't control it. And I'm okay with that. I'm just okay with that. All right. Passion. Number two, perspective. Perspective is key. Perspective is taking a name like Apple Computers or Hyliion Holdings and making it a positive. I've had 1,000 different excuses to exit stage left on Hyliion Holdings when I know in my mind and my instinctual application that it is premature in making that decision. There's nothing fundamentally to make that hook and decision. My point is your perspective on everything that you do. You take everything and you bundle it up and you peek inside for just a second. You look at it and say, okay, it's good. Everything, food, family, dental, medical, professional, spiritual, boom, everything you got, relationships, right? Injects, stress, whatever it is, they would throw it in there. You look at it and say, for the most part, man, it's pretty darn good perspective. All right. When you have that perspective, you actually have the ability to look inside your basket of blessings and maybe even look to fine tune, acknowledge, improve upon, do away with, right? Instead of just being consumed all the time. Perspective puts you in control. All right. Perspective puts you in control. That is the key. All right. And I see all the time that perhaps maybe people allow themselves to be swept up by the whims of life. And when you are swept up like that, all of those things that another person controls actually controls you. And it's not so abnormal to expect that those things are outside the realm of controllability. It's not like that. It's just your perspective in how you approach those different attributes in your life and how you look to pull the strings on each of them or have those strings pull you. Okay? All right. Number three, perseverance. Holy moly. Um, this is like my favorite. This is like nitty gritty trenches, frothing at the freaking mouth, pissed off. We used to call it cold, wet, tired, and hungry in Alaska. If you were cold, wet, tired, and hungry, you were doing it right. Cold, wet, tired, and hungry. Now, you could solve all of that by quitting and going and laying down in your bunk. Okay. We had somebody do that actually when the money wasn't lucrative. My back hurts. I'm done. I'm out. I'm catching the next flight when we head back to Ketchikan. I think we were fishing out of Ketchikan or Petersburg. And he was done, freaking done, done. Enough to where, man, the crew was pulling his weight, man. We weren't making a dime. Tide changed, wind kicked up, seas kicked up, and the salmon decided to hit the beach in a big, big way. And we're pulling in nets, salmon flying through the freaking ringer, jellyfish flying everywhere. And you know what this kid does? He comes back to the back and he's like, I'm ready to go to work now. So the perseverance wasn't good enough when things were bad. But when things were good, this individual had the audacity to suggest that he was ready to go to work now and make lots of money. And I think a lot of people have unfair expectations of life. I'm just here to tell you, if you've had a life on par with what I've had, a lot of really good, a lot of craziness. I've been into some crazy stuff, man. Crazy stuff. All good. Wouldn't trade it for nothing. My crazy life took me to those places where the decisions that I made to do what I did at the most aggressive times that I made the decisions were some of the best decisions. Being provided the opportunity to be in those situations has defined my life. Okay, uh, wouldn't have apologized for any of it. But I don't doubt that your life is any different than mine in that capacity. You've been dealt hardship, you know, waking up I God, I got to go to work again. How many people deal with that? God, I got to go to work again. Man alive, I just wish I could make a few extra bucks, right? It all takes perseverance. Because if you're making just enough to get by, or you're making enough to actually get by and then some, and some people are making some to get some and get by and get some and get some and get some, and they're still wanting more, right? How much perseverance do you think you're actually able to muster up and deploy and put to work to, I don't know, deploy a side contingent, right? It takes a lot. Freaking telling you, it takes a lot. I'm at a point now where I'm mature in the channel and the project where I'll never quit the channel. Never. It's if you subscribe to the channel, I you're gonna get a lifetime buddy. You're gonna get a lifetime YouTube buddy free of charge with your subscription to the Independent Investor channel. I'm not asking you to subscribe. I don't want you to subscribe if you don't want to. I don't. I don't run my channel that way. I could care less. Really care less. If you don't want to be here, I don't want you here. I do not want you here because the stuff that I'm talking about, yeah, it's real. It's real. I think it puts that adversity piece right in front of your face, and you have to question your own ability to persevere, right? Unless you operate like some people that I get a sense have no problems at all. They're perfect. They have no problems. Kids are perfect. Spouse is perfect. House is perfect. The fence is that perfect shade of white. Perfect. The vehicles, they never have to have their tires changed. They float on the road. They never have problems. My swimming pool, it has crystal clear water all the time. You never even have to do anything with the chemicals. Chemicals? Ha ha ha. Those are the birds, right? Because you live such a perfect life, right? All you've got to do is just be. hmm I don't know. I'm here to give you a little bit more dose of reality, man. I don't like the vision now on YouTube that somehow you can circumvent a career path and end up in millions. Some people will. My buddy just did. I just got his book, Ryan Scribner's book. He's an author, man. I'm proud of him. But that is an abnormal path. Now, if you talk about that path as if everybody can do it, wrong. He'll tell you the first same thing. I know how hard he worked. I know how hard I've worked on the Independent Investor channel to have nominal success on YouTube. Some people look at it and they're like, wow, 30,000, but they have no idea how much work has actually been put in on the project, right? I'm not one of those folks that, with what I understand about what life can dole out to you and the barriers that can be put up if you're not ready for them or don't know how to persevere past them, you're crazy if you think that you can somehow put that entrepreneurial spirit to work without perseverance and end up with amassing a fortune down the line. You're crazy. You are crazy and you're delusional. There's a lot of delusional thought on YouTube, unfortunately. And a lot of those delusional thinkers, man, they've actually succeeded quite well. Um, unfortunately, a lot of people tune in and they want to get excited about that stuff. And the idea that I talk about that um, learning how to work in and of itself is an absolute craft. It is an absolute craft. I tell you what. You know, I put myself up against the older generation, like my grandfather, and we don't hold a candle. We don't hold a candle. And I know my way around a toolbox. I really do. I know my way around engines. I know my way around hard work. No doubt about it. But yeah, the new generation, I'm sure great people, but there's something lost with regard to aspiring to those those false prophecies of all the rich and reward without the hard work. The element of that that's missing is that you might make that, you're not going to appreciate a darn thing. You're not, because you're lacking the very important thing that I talk about in regard to perspective. Why not just do it the hard way? That way you can appreciate what it is that you get. You feel like you can make it. I look at the independent investor channel all the time and I'm like, there's no way in hell. And I tell people closest in my network, there's no way in hell I could do this channel. I'm watching the live stream roll off in views. I get about 400 or 500 views now a week on my live stream, a product that I used to get 1,500, 2,000. Okay. Perseverance. You think I'm going to quit? Absolutely not. The product every week improves. The lessons that I throw down are life lessons for people to adhere to. And again, the quality of the people that I'm looking to speak to and the quality of the people that I'm looking to make a sticky community member within the I do, those are the people that I'm after anyway, right? But from a success ratio, I've lost half of the viewers, right? Perseverance. The last P, the last P. You guys can take this for what you will, but the last one is plan. And I talk about the plan all the time. And this is what I share through the channel about, you know, where do I invest, Ryan? How do I do this thing? How do I invest, right? What do I invest in? What should my portfolio, what should I do? What should I do, Ryan? Help me. What should I do? Well, first of all, you need to ask yourself why, in fact, even interested in this at all. Okay. Is it an excuse to supplement poor spending behavior? Is it an excuse to try to supplement for over exuberant debt? I've been there. It's all good. I'm not judging you. If you have debt, you have debt. It's all good. I don't shy away from the money topic and say, "Oh, hey, I don't know how much money you got in the bank. I don't know, $1,200, man." But I'm not supposed to talk about it because it's just weird, and it's weird, you know. I don't care. I share what I have. I don't care. It's a freaking pile of paper. It's a pile of paper. Every dollar that I get toward that pile of paper goes toward my financial security, which is my actual goal. And the more paper that I have, evidently, lends itself that much more definable to my financial goal down the line, which is financial security. I have my own idea of what that means. Okay. And when we get there, I will chronicle the whole thing for you guys. Until then, I'm going to enjoy the remainder of my January 20th, 2023 with you kind folks as we wrap down the final 7 minutes of the live stream. Have some perspective, have a plan, okay? Have some passion and have some perspective, and make sure that you can persevere past all your personal barriers that are going to come your way, because I'm here to tell you that they will absolutely present themselves as in life. It's all about how you deal with them. All right. Are you kidding me? Tony Lenza. He just tuned in. He just says he's from Santa Barbara. When I was in Santa Barbara and I spent the little time that I spent there, I used to work out of Ventura and I used to bomb up to SB. And I thought every single time I went there, I was like, right on, I'm in heaven. And it's about the biggest compliment I can give to someplace, right? And to SB, Tony, right? It's all good. Yeah. If I came out and visit, can you put me up for a week? That'd be awesome. Very nice. You're very lucky, Tony. Thank you. I've got a special place in my heart there for Southern California. It is where I met my beauty many moons ago. San Fran. Spent many moon in San Fran. You betcha. Beautiful city. Love it. Absolutely. It's a special place. It's kind of where I'm from, Southern Oregon, right? So it's just where you start to get into that not Southern California. It kind of starts to turn into, the Northwest. It, that kind of creeps down into all the way to the Bay Area. But yeah, you betcha, man. Half Moon Bay, Monterey, right? Yeah, I was going around the point there, and I was bringing the fishing boat up, and it was like 16 feet waves in my face. And I was puking out the window. I was on wheel watch, and I was up on the wheel by myself, and had my head out the window, and I was looking for logs in 16-foot swell going around. It was the Big Sur. See, I can take San Francisco and make a story out of it, right? The cool thing about that is a true story. So I don't know how many people have been out on the ocean in 16-foot swell by themselves up on the wheelhouse, puking out the window, watching for logs, trying to stay off the rocks and keep the vessel pointed toward its next destination, which at that point, I think we were going to dip into Monterey. I think we went up there for some squid fishing, but just a little glint in time there, one crazy day of amongst many in my crazy life. But hey, like I said, everybody's got them, right? It's great to see you, man. Thank you for joining. I appreciate it. Stock market investing is in the house. Very cool stuff. Man, Ryan, you got all kinds of questions. Holy smokes, I would have to send you a consulting bill. I have another. What is the best book about investing you've ever read? Think and Grow Rich is really, really good. I like the Blueprint for America. Blueprint for America, that's a good one. The Intelligent Investor is fantastic. It's some people say it's an easy book. I don't think it is. If you read it really fast, it's really, really a difficult read. It's easier if you slow down and read it slowly. But yeah, Think and Grow Rich and Blueprint for America. Blueprint for America is like that. I read that, and it keeps you guessing all the way to the end, where he like gives you the secret to investing. And you get to the end of it and you're like, I kind of think I know what it is. And you get to the end and it is what you think that it is, but it spends the whole book explaining why it is. It's justified in why they recommend what they recommend at the end of the book. It's really cool. It's really cool. You think of the analogy of the apple seed in the ground growing over 100 years, producing apples for that, latter part, or the, once the seedling grows into a nice tree and becomes mature, every year it produces more and more fruitful fruit, et cetera, et cetera. It's just a cool lesson. It's one that kind of I resonated with. It's one that I actually let somebody borrow, and I shouldn't have, because it's no longer in my possession. I had notes in the margin. It talked about commodities, equities, the insurance business, which is really cool. It's a good one. It's a Stansberry research. So don't get political on me. All right. Don't throw stones at me. But it's a really, really good read. It's very cool. I got Eric in the group, man. He says I own both. Very cool stuff. That's a cool thing to treat yourself with, a nice pub. Do some reading on this stuff. It's kind of fun. Help you actually define what it is that you do in your application. You're a man of high integrity and respect. I am. Thank you. I appreciate that. I'm glad that comes through. I really am. It's a cool thing. It's a great project. It's fun. You guys make it fun. It's a good community. I'm glad to broker the business. It's a lot of fun for me. Show up every day is 99%. No doubt about that, man. No doubt about it. And be happy to do it. I put a note here, derive meaning in all you do. And I think I got to like exercise, but I have work here. Organization. Maybe it goes with my maybe OCD. I don't think I have it, but I like to be organized. Okay. Organization, free of charge. Emotional content. That's Bruce Lee. Okay. Emotional content. That's Bruce Lee. Okay. Spiritual. Okay. Rest. I'm looking forward to sleeping in tomorrow. I will not be at the gym tomorrow because I've earned it. Try going to the gym 5 days a week. Do whatever it is you got to do. I spend 2 hours a morning, hour and a half, hour and 45 minutes. In all fairness to myself and you guys, I spend a pretty good amount of time at the gym. So I'm going to take some sleep tomorrow, free of charge. I'll get more benefit out of that. I'll wake up, I'll have a nice cup of coffee tomorrow, have some breakfast, man. It's all good. Life is good, baby. See what I'm talking about? Fantastic, man. We're getting close to closing down the fastest 60 minutes on YouTube, man. Holy moly, I've just been talking for 5 minutes. I always think to myself, what am I going to talk about? What am I going to talk about with this crew that comes in so loyal? You guys are great, man. Every Friday, man. You just, it's such a loyal community. Let's keep it going, man. Let's keep it going. I'm always in the live stream just a touch early. If you guys want to kick back with me into the back studio, you're welcome to do that. If you remind me, say, hey, drop a link. I want to run some questions by you. Like Ryan had some questions tonight. That was awesome. Really appreciate that. I'm a funny guy. I don't really get angry. You know, people are really apologetic, or they don't know me. I get it. He's just being really kind and courteous. Um, there is no right or wrong answer in this gig. So when you bring those questions up, like he did to me, I was like, right on, man. It totally makes sense. Very cool stuff. And Cincy, very cool, very cool. Cincy's a place that I really haven't spent a lot of time in. The place I've spent time in Ohio has been Toledo. So good old Toledo. I've spent more than my fair share of time in Toledo, and that's all I'll say about that. Very cool stuff, man. Prior preparation prevents piss poor performance. Indeedy, indeedy. Very cool stuff. I always look through these comments and I always see some stuff in here that I wish I would have got through during the live stream, man. Thoughts on Boeing after the run up? Maybe trim them for a bigger percent. How about, yeah, Goldman really took a dive. I'd buy Goldman here. Just buy it. It's a buy. Dow component. Same with Boeing. Boeing has been on a nice run. It's been on a nice run after 3 years of horrendous performance. Yeah, but I think Boeing at some point long term, I'm talking within the next 2 or 3 years, we'll look at this and say, gosh, we really had an opportunity to buy Boeing. And it's not gonna step out and scream at you and say, okay, buy me here. I own the shares and I'm owning them long. I've kind of gravitated to a new place, David. These good companies that I can look at and say, rest assured they're good. I'm not going to sell them. I don't need to sell them. Glad to see Netflix pop. Been building a position since saying the clear up trend. I'd be careful with Netflix. It's my 2 cents. It's my 2 cents. I don't like the stock. I have a Netflix subscription, but if you can just be totally honest with me, are you truly blown away by the service? There's not a streaming service that I'm completely just totally blown away by, except for Tubi. Tubi's free. Tubi's free. There's some awesome stuff on there. It's freaking free. I don't pay for anything, right? But Disney is disappointing to me. And a lot of people would say, whoa, Ryan, holy moly, you can't touch precious Disney. Yes, I can. Mandalorian's a phenomenal piece of content, but I don't understand why Disney doesn't open up their entire vault of content. They own content going all the way back to the 50s. I don't know why they don't open it up. Herbie goes bananas. I'd love to see Herbie. How about some Tiger Town? That was an old Disney movie. Where's that? And I just don't understand why their premium streaming service doesn't have that stuff. But Netflix, I've never owned it. I'm good enough to own it through the indexes. Speaking of, redundancy in the portfolio, I'm okay with going about it that route, and I'm cool with that. I really am. I was glad to see it pop a little bit, but at 30 times, it's still pretty expensive. At the rate that they have to grow subscribers, which is the metric to look at with Netflix, I don't know. Are they going to keep up on this accelerated growth over the next year, 5 years, 10 years? You might say yes. You could be right. I don't know. But I think with increasing competition and people kind of waking up to the fact that streaming is it kind of sucks. Like I get more enjoyment out of doing YouTube, viewing social media content, specific content, as opposed to sitting there. How many of you guys have spent like a half hour looking on Netflix for an actual movie to watch, never to find a movie to watch? Am I the only one? I don't know. I'll leave you with that thought, man. Very cool stuff. What what a day for Hyliion. Gotta love it. It was okay. It's been a great start to 2023 as far as I'm concerned. I'm super stoked. It's going to be really interesting. Look, if we enter into 2023, the end of Q3 and Q4, I'm still going to be the same Ryan. Is my Hyliion position going to be the same? I don't know. Maybe. Is it going to be less? I don't know. Maybe. Could it be more? I don't know. Maybe. Right? Perspective. One thing I can guarantee you is that I will be there for the look. I will be there for the look. It's just worth it for me. I have X number of dollars in a pile there that's devoted to this because I think that it's going to turn out to be something very, very special. I think the OEMs have to acknowledge. I think fleets have to play ball. And I think they're forced to looking at the few solutions out there on the landscape. Hyliion will get their look. They will get their look, whether or not they completely fall flat on their face with their performance of the product and the durability that exists therein, like I feel like Tesla is. And the Tesla bulls are not acknowledging those shortcomings. It's really crazy how they always get the nod and people are like, Tesla to the moon. And it's like, no, I don't see it, man. I'm sorry. But that, I guess, is what makes me independent in the whole thing. But Dara, good to see you, my friend. Thanks for making your way on here, my friend. I'm staying in, do a little extra time here, making sure that we got everybody. Uh-oh, we got ACT from Mike. That's your number one position? Be careful. I got an awful big position. I got about a stack of high society in a row, so I like it a lot. One stack. That's what I got. One stack. I have a goal set somewhere down the line at much more of a valuation. I think Aduro is kind of like a three-headed monster. I think it could end up being a three-tier company. I think it could split three ways. I think the bitumen could go one way. I think the upgrading of oil could go one way. And I think plastic could stand on its own with its hydrochemolytic technology. For you guys that don't know what I'm talking about, you should tune into some of my Chronicle videos, man. Some of those profilings that I'm doing are top notch, man. They're really, really cool stuff. And Anna's in the house, man. She says VTI. That's like a J.L. Collins favorite. That somebody asked me about my favorite books. If you just YouTube J.L. Collins, you'll be hooked on investing for the rest of your freaking life. You don't need to hear it from me. Like some people tune in and be like, look at this fruitcake with his Nike shirt on and his ugly face, and he wears the headphones on his head and he doesn't even need them. Listen to J.L. Collins and what he talks about. He will get you understanding why it is that VTI is an absolutely top tier premium ETF. I really wish the young people would kind of take note of this and be like, you know what? I can become a self-directed investor. I can own my own fate by looking at the total stock market index. The total stock market index. What does that mean, Ryan? You own it all. Small caps, mid caps, and large caps. Domestic US stock market, VTI doesn't get hardly better than that, guys. And that's a great place to end, guys. I really appreciate you tuning in to the live stream tonight. Had a lot of fun tonight. It was a real hoot. It was a real hoot. I demonstrated perseverance by just trudging through all 60 minutes, fired away. I demonstrated my desire and my initiative for this project, right? I did it while being real. And I did it without really working on a whole hell of a lot of a script because I speak from the heart, right? And the more we can do that, we can engage in real discussion, that of which I feel like sometimes is uncomfortable discussion with people when we talk about personal finance, wealth building, and cutting back on budget, making a holistic lifestyle for yourself. Hopefully we've created a spark in you guys that can kind of help you in some of those transformational changes in your own personal life, guys. I discovered it, and I look to share that through social media and through the YouTube opportunity, guys. Be well, have a great weekend, and we'll catch you next week on the Independent Investor Channel live stream. Be well.